Right here in front of you sits the version of yourself you've been holding on to for far too long. The old identity. It's built from the same recycled thoughts that spin in circles, looping endlessly like a broken record. It's made of emotional patterns that keep showing up in your life like reruns you didn't ask to watch. It's stitched together from old stories, old memories, and the pieces of your past you haven't released yet. And as long as you're carrying this weight with you, your life feels stuck, frozen, like nothing truly moves forward. The funny thing is, most people around you won't see it. This weight doesn't always appear as physical clutter. It hides beneath the surface, living in your chest, your nervous system, your daily reactions. You've been carrying it for decades without realizing how heavy it's become. You know it's there because you feel it. You sense it each morning, before the day even starts, when your chest tightens as though it already knows what's coming. You hear it in the quiet voice that says, "Don't get your hopes up." You catch it in those familiar cycles you keep promising yourself you'll break, only to find yourself trapped in them again. This isn't just some vague idea. It's woven into your biology. It lives in the chemistry of your body, in your smallest choices, in the way you unconsciously react. It's not just the past. It's a frequency, like a song playing on repeat. And while you stay tuned to that channel, your dreams sit on pause, waiting for you to finally change the track. Here's the truth most people never realize. You cannot step into a brand new life while clinging to the same energy of yesterday. This is where people get stuck. They try to build change with positive thinking, affirmations, vision boards, or journals, but beneath it all, if they're still waking up with the same emotional chemistry, still telling themselves the same tired story, still vibrating at yesterday's frequency, nothing actually changes. That old identity, the one repeating the same patterns over and over, was never designed for thriving. It was created for survival. It was born in moments of rejection, fear, disappointment. It was a reflex, not a conscious design. Over the years it became familiar, even comfortable, and eventually you started mistaking it for who you really are. But what if that isn't the truth? What if that voice whispering, "You're not ready," or "It's too risky," isn't real? What if it's just the echo of a self you've already outgrown? Quantum physics tells us something fascinating. Reality isn't separate from you. The outer world mirrors your inner state. You're not just living in the universe. You are the universe, expressing itself in human form. Which means every time you wake up and live as that outdated identity, what happens? Life hands you the same results, the same setbacks, the same disappointments. Not because you're cursed, and not because your dreams are wrong, but because the universe respects consistency. Your energy, your frequency, is like a tuning fork, and the world around you has no choice but to vibrate in response. You don't create from what you want. You create from what you embody. And that's the key. Transformation isn't about building a brand new version of yourself from scratch. The real work is dissolving everything that was never truly you in the first place. Your old identity clings to safety, but safety was never your soul's highest purpose. Safety was survival. Stagnation was never your destiny. That mask you've been wearing, shaped by pain, failure, rejection, or shame, was never meant to lead you toward the future you've glimpsed in your best moments. That higher reality already exists, not someday far off in the distance, but right now, waiting on a different frequency for you to align with it instead of chasing it. But here's the hard part. You cannot access that higher version of life while staying emotionally tied to your past. You can't keep replaying guilt, bitterness, or self-doubt and expect to grow into something new. You can't wake up as yesterday's version of yourself and step into a future timeline you've never experienced before. So, what are we really doing here? This journey is about breaking the cycle. Not through shame, not through force, but through release. We honor the old self for what it gave us. We thank it for keeping us alive, and then we let it go with gratitude. From there, we step into the quantum field, not through wishful thinking, but through alignment. True energetic alignment. The goal is to dissolve yesterday's blueprint so you can finally step into the self that's already living the life you've been asking for. Because here's the truth. The universe isn't demanding you work harder. It's waiting for you to shift your signal. You're not stuck because your dreams aren't real. You're stuck because your identity keeps broadcasting the same reality over and over. But once you shift that identity, once you lay down the heaviness, the wounds, the old definitions, you'll see your outer world rearrange itself effortlessly. Not because you forced it, but because transformation changes the frequency you live on. So, take a deep breath. Something new is already awakening inside you, and it's not coming from the outside world. It's rising from within you. The question is, are you ready to meet the version of yourself that's already free? Imagine this. You wake up to a new morning. The room looks the same, your mind starts chattering the same way, and the familiar inner dialogue returns. I hope today will be different, you think, but by the time your feet touch the floor, your body has already decided otherwise. Why? Because before your conscious mind has a chance to step in, your unconscious programming has already taken over. And that's the trap. Most people don't actually enter a new day. They enter the same self again and again. The body remembers who you've been, not just as a memory, but as programming. Emotions become chemical habits. Behaviors turn automatic. And soon, you're not even responding to the present moment anymore. You're just reenacting yesterday until your life feels like one long rerun. Neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that by the time most of us turn 35, 95% of who we are is already just a set of memorized responses, routines, and beliefs. In other words, most of what you think of as you isn't really you at all. It's a program. It's the old self running the show. And biologist Bruce Lipton adds another layer. The moment you shift your perception, you shift your body's chemistry, which means your emotional state, your frequency, is literally writing the story of your reality. That's why transformation feels so hard. You're not just trying to think differently, you're breaking an addiction to being the old you. Think about it. This is the version of you that always expects disappointment, the version that braces for rejection, the one that secretly doubts you're worthy of anything good, not because you're broken, but because at some point your nervous system decided it was safer to expect less. That wasn't a choice. It was a survival strategy. But here's the catch. That survival strategy has now become the cage, not your circumstances, not the people around you. The real prison is the identity you're afraid to leave behind, even when you know it's draining your joy, your health, your peace of mind. So let me ask you something with compassion. What emotions do you feel most often? Is it guilt? Is it doubt? Frustration? Resentment? What if those emotions aren't random? What if they're habits? What if your body has become addicted to them because they reinforce your old identity? And if that's the case, what kind of life do you think that emotional broadcast is pulling towards you? This is the tough reality most people never face. Your old identity isn't just a memory, it's a magnet. And the quantum field doesn't respond to your words, your dream board, or your affirmations. It responds to your emotional frequency. You can say you want love, but if deep down your foundation whispers, "I'm not enough," you'll block intimacy without even realizing it. You can visualize wealth, but if your emotional home is fear, you'll unconsciously push prosperity away. It's not because you don't deserve it. It's because your nervous system hasn't updated to the version of you that's ready to receive. That's why you can devour self-help books, attend countless seminars, or repeat affirmations every day and still feel stuck. Because transformation isn't intellectual, it's energetic, chemical, vibrational. You can't just think your way into a new life. You have to embody it. So, what's the first step? We shine a light on this cycle, not to shame it, but to see it clearly, to recognize that the person you've been up until now isn't permanent. It's not destiny. It's just a practiced frequency, and you can stop rehearsing it the moment you stop identifying with it. This isn't self-hate. This is liberation. This is laying down the weight of a version of you that was built for survival, not expansion. And here's the paradox. The second you observe your old identity without fusing with it, you step into the role of the witness. And in quantum physics, observation changes everything. The act of observing collapses possibility into reality, which means the moment you see your old self as just a pattern, you're no longer trapped inside it. You shift into awareness itself, and that awareness is the first spark of a completely new reality. Let's go deeper. What actually happens in your brain when you shift from being the pattern to watching the pattern? Neuroscience shows that when you observe your thoughts and emotions without clinging to them, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for conscious choice, perspective, and executive control, lights up. At the same time, the amygdala, the part responsible for fear and survival, quiets down. This isn't just philosophy, it's measurable. Brain scans of people practicing this witness mode show visible rewiring in just a few weeks. The old neural circuits that belong to your outdated identity begin to lose their strength because you're no longer feeding them. At the same time, the circuits tied to your elevated identity strengthen because you're rehearsing them instead. That's why so many ancient traditions emphasized witnessing, simply being the observer. They didn't need brain scans to know that awareness reshapes the mind. They understood that when consciousness turns inward, transformation isn't just mental. It becomes structural. And the shift doesn't stop at your brain. Your entire nervous system begins to recalibrate. Instead of being locked in fight-or-flight mode, sympathetic dominance, you start moving into parasympathetic dominance, the state of rest, repair, and creation. Your heart rate variability improves, your breath deepens, and your body finds coherence. From that state, clarity and creativity rise effortlessly. The version of you that's bracing for impact all the time can't access this. The version of you that witnesses, breathes, and chooses differently can. Let's make this interactive. Not with likes or shares, but with a declaration. Pause for a moment and say or type the words, "I am ready to release the version of me that no longer aligns with my destiny." Don't toss it out casually. Write it like a vow. Mark the moment. Interrupt the old loop intentionally. Send a clear signal into the field. I am no longer available for yesterday. If you feel a stirring as you say that, something deep, almost ancient, you're not imagining it. That's resonance. And if this space feels like more than just information, if it feels like remembering, then stay with me. Because what we're building here isn't just a channel. It's a frequency, a place to stay aligned, elevated, and coherent as you stabilize your new identity. We've all been told, ask, visualize, trust, and those tools can help. But for so many people, they lead to waiting. Waiting for the money, waiting for the relationship, waiting for the shift. And when it doesn't come on schedule, we blame our methods, or worse, ourselves. But here's another possibility. Your vision isn't too big. Your frequency is too familiar. This is the piece most manifestation advice skips over. The quantum field isn't responding to the words on your vision board. It's responding to your state. Alignment, in quantum terms, is when your heart, mind, emotions, and behaviors synchronize. Not just briefly, but consistently. You can't out-talk your frequency. If your emotional home is fear, that's the signal the field receives. If your set point is unworthiness, that's the reflection that comes back. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it's precise. Think of reality like a mirror. You don't raise your left hand and expect the reflection to lift its right. The image follows you exactly. That's why so many manifestation attempts feel like effort with little change. We're asking the mirror to move first. The real invitation is radical and simple. Change the one who's looking, and the reflection has no choice but to follow. Most people try to create a new timeline with the same identity, same stance, same breath, same daily habits, just with fancier goals. But your future self isn't just thinking differently, they're living differently. They breathe differently, move differently, speak with a deeper knowing. They don't try to be, they already are. Let's anchor this in science. Every thought produces an electrical signal. Every emotion generates a magnetic signal. Together, those signals create your broadcast, your personal frequency. That broadcast isn't your wish list. It's your embodied identity in motion. When you live in fear or anxiety, your brain hums in high beta or chaotic gamma states. The energy field around you becomes noisy, incoherent, like trying to tune into a symphony while the radio is stuck on static. But your heart tells a different story. The heart produces the most powerful electromagnetic field in your body, stronger than the brain. And it extends far beyond your physical self. When you step into gratitude, appreciation, love, or care, your heart rhythms become coherent. Research proves that this coherence reshapes the signal you're broadcasting. People feel it. Environments respond to it. Synchronicities begin clustering around it. You're not just a body moving through space. You're a transmitter. Everywhere you go, every room you enter, you're sending out a signal. This is why two people can walk into the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. One person's field says, "I'm open, I'm ready," and opportunities flow. The other says, "I'm closed, I'm not enough," and doors stay invisible. The quantum field reflects each message faithfully. So here's the question worth asking. What am I broadcasting right now? Does my inner state match the life I say I want? Or am I blasting scarcity, fear, and hurry while aiming for ease, gratitude, and trust? If the station you want is classical, but your tuner is set to static, you don't scream at the speakers, you adjust the dial. If this resonates, stay with me. Because this is where mindset ends and embodiment begins. The field doesn't listen to the words you write. It listens to the signal in your nervous system. The observer effect taught us that observation collapses possibility into reality. But here's the twist. It's not just that you observe, it's who you are while you observe. Neville Goddard put it plainly. You're not creating, you're choosing. And the chooser, the identity you embody, is what selects the timeline. That's why trying to manifest from the old self feels like dragging a boulder uphill. The foundation hasn't shifted. You're still building on yesterday's soil. Let's bring this down to earth. Maybe you grew up with money stress. You're affirming abundance now, but every time a bill arrives, your nervous system panics. Your breath shortens, stress hormones flood your body, your shoulders tense. That's your field broadcasting lack even while your mouth declares wealth. The quantum doesn't echo your words. It echoes your signature. And the real work is updating the signature. And that's deeper than swapping thoughts. It's about upgrading the whole operating system. How you walk into a room, how you breathe through uncertainty, the tone of your voice when you talk about your future, the micro decisions you make when nobody's watching. Each micro signal adds up to your broadcast. Now, picture your future self clearly. They don't puff up or shrink down. Their posture is relaxed. Their breath is steady. Their eyes shine. Their voice carries calm conviction. They don't interpret challenges as proof of failure. They see them as invitations to grow. They're not fighting shadows. They're present. So the real question isn't, how do I force the outcome? It's, who do I need to be right now to match the outcome? Think like them. Feel like them. Walk, speak, and choose like them. Reality follows identity the way the mirror follows your reflection. And when you begin living from this elevated self, the field responds quickly, sometimes in obvious ways, sometimes subtle. You feel pulled toward actions your old self would never have taken. A stranger reaches out at the perfect moment. A solution appears after weeks of fog. You feel a click inside, a quiet knowing. That's alignment. And remember, this isn't about pretending. The field is too precise for that. If you fake coherence, you'll feel friction. But if you cultivate genuine coherence, breath by breath, choice by choice, you'll feel momentum. One of the most freeing truths of the observer effect is that your attention is like an instrument. Aim it from fear, and you collapse fear-lined possibilities. Aim it from trust, and you collapse trust-lined ones. You're not a passive bystander, you're the selector. This is why identity work is non-negotiable. Without it, manifestation feels like a constant uphill grind. With it, manifestation becomes natural. You stop trying to drag the future towards you and instead rise to meet it. When the ground beneath you shifts, the path in front of you reveals itself. Let's ground this in practice. Next time a familiar trigger pops up, a bill, a text, a deadline, pause. Notice your body's first reaction. Then ask yourself, how would my elevated self breathe right now? What would they relax? What would they choose? Do that. In that moment, you're not thinking your way into a new life. You're embodying it. This is the edge most people skip. They want the outcome without becoming the person for whom that outcome is natural. But when you become that person first, something remarkable happens. Life begins treating you accordingly. Synchronicities multiply. People comment that something about you feels different. Lighter, clearer, steadier. What they're sensing is your new broadcast. Some connections will deepen. Others will drift. Not because anyone is wrong, but because resonance rearranges relationships. Let it. As your frequency stabilizes, the people, places, and opportunities aligned with it become obvious. The ones that aren't will fade away. That isn't rejection. It's alignment doing its work. So keep this promise close. I won't ask the mirror to move first. I'll move first. I'll breathe as the elevated me. I'll speak as the elevated me. I'll choose as the elevated me. And I'll let the field do what it always does. Mirror me back to me. Now, let's talk about stabilization. What happens when your new identity begins to take root? At first, the changes might feel small. You wake up feeling a little lighter. You make a choice your old self would have avoided. Maybe you speak up in a meeting, take a new route home, or call someone you've been thinking about. Don't dismiss these as insignificant. Every time you act from your elevated identity instead of the old one, you collapse a different possibility into reality. With consistency, momentum builds. Soon, you'll start noticing what physicists call non-local correlations, those moments that feel like uncanny coincidences. You think of a friend, and they text you. You need an answer, and it shows up. You feel drawn to a place or event, and it turns out to be exactly where you needed to be. These aren't random. They're evidence of your upgraded broadcast aligning with new experiences. The people around you will notice too. They may not be able to put it into words, but they'll feel it. Your presence shifts. Some will be magnetized closer, others will quietly drift away. That's okay. This isn't about judgment. It's about resonance. Your new signal draws in what matches and filters out what doesn't. This reorganization is natural. You don't have to cut ties or prove anything. Your frequency does the sorting for you. And the most powerful realization? The version of you that already exists in that higher frequency, the one you thought you had to chase, has been here all along. You're not dragging your future toward you. You're stepping into it. You're not attracting a life that doesn't exist yet. You're tuning into one that's always been available. Reality doesn't bend to effort. It bends to resonance. The universe doesn't rearrange itself because you beg harder. It rearranges because you embody differently. That's why the most powerful shift you can make isn't external. It's not hustling more, forcing harder, or waiting for the perfect sign. It's alignment. Choosing your new signal as your identity. You move first. Then the path shows itself. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine walking into a room. Across from you stands your elevated self, the version of you already living the life you desire. Notice how they stand, how they breathe, how they look at others. Their eyes hold certainty. Their shoulders are relaxed, their voice is steady. They don't need to prove anything or push for attention. They radiate coherence. That's you. That's always been you. Ask this self, what did you release to become free? You'll realize it wasn't about piling more on top. It wasn't about becoming more. It was about peeling away what wasn't you. Old doubts, old scars, old defenses. What remains is essence, soul, alignment. And when you shift into that essence, the field responds. First, in subtle ways. A new thought, a surprising connection, a flash of clarity. Then, in bigger ones, synchronicities multiplying, resistance fading, opportunities opening. Because you're no longer tuned to resistance. You're tuned to reception. And here's the key. The old self doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be retired, appreciated, released. Like outdated software, it kept you alive, but it can't keep you free. When those old emotions rise up, and they will, see them for what they are. Residue, not reality. your nervous system detoxing, not sabotage. Gently say, "This is just energy leaving. This isn't who I am anymore." Some days you'll feel pulled back into the old identity. That's normal. These are integration days, the moments when your body and mind are fusing the new program deeper. Those days show yourself compassion. Choose actions from your elevated self even if you don't feel like it. Over time, the new pathways strengthen and the old ones fade. Here's a simple practice. Each morning, before the world rushes in, ask yourself, which version of me will shape today? Make that choice consciously, because every time you choose, you're not just shifting your day, you're shifting timelines. Your choice ripples outward into the field, touching every life you encounter. You've already begun dissolving the old self. You've already stepped into the new, and the instant you do, reality starts reshaping. Not someday, not eventually, now. Because transformation doesn't wait for proof. It begins the moment you shift your frequency. Maybe you can already feel it. That lightness, that peace, that spark of new possibility rising within you. That's not imagination. That's the field responding. Reality has always been flexible, alive, waiting, not for you to chase it, but for you to meet it. This is how manifestation really works. You don't drag your future toward you. You rise to it. You become its match. And because your vibration is the blueprint of your reality, once you change it, your life has no choice but to follow. Look around. On the surface, things might still look the same, but you are not the same, and that alone changes everything. From now on, every thought, every emotion, every belief you embody is either aligning you with your expanded timeline or pulling you back into the past. But the shift has already begun. The real practice is here. When fear shows up, you breathe deeper. When doubt whispers, you soften instead of tighten. When old patterns surface, you say, "That's not me anymore." You respond from presence. Each time you do, you strengthen your new self. You update your signal, and reality reorganizes around you. The changes will reveal themselves in many forms. Some loud, like new clarity, unexpected opportunities, perfect timing. Others quiet, like inner peace, ease, inspiration that flows naturally. All of these are proof. Your new broadcast is live. And this is why ancient wisdom spoke of dying before you die. They knew transformation isn't about adding more layers to who you were. It's about releasing the false identity so the true one can live. And you've already begun that rebirth. So, as we close, mark this moment. Declare it in the field. Not just with words, but with energy. Say it, write it, feel it. The former me has been dissolved. This isn't just content. It's a frequency, a ripple telling the quantum, I have stepped into alignment. And if this journey has felt like more than information, if it has felt like remembering, then stay close. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a gathering of frequencies, a field where we release the old and step into the truth of who we've always been. Remember this, the old you completed its job. It kept you alive. But its chapter is done. The new you is already here, already riding the next part of your story. Reality is listening. The field is responding. And from this moment forward, you're not chasing transformation. You're embodying it.